been with us before, and thank you for coming back. I'm Cheryl Neeser. I'm just one of the leadership team here for this meetup, the Minnesota Agile Community Meetup. And I'm really happy that you're here. I'm excited about tonight and some of the other events that we have coming up. For those of you that are recent joinees, we have our mission and vision out on the site, and I don't want to get into that because I know you all know how to, which is really cool. So I just wanted to say thanks for joining tonight, this brain building blueprints. But before I get into anything about the speaker, one of the things that we noticed in the last couple is that at the end, there's such a flurry of people talking or leaving for whatever reason that we oftentimes miss out on announcing what we have planned. So I just wanted to, tell you ahead of time about the next 2 months. So you can see on our site that the May 20th event is with Mark Humbleby. He's going to be joining us from lovely Australia and sharing the value of visual communication. And if you were part of last month's event, you may have had a chance to meet him in a breakout room. And so tonight, we're expecting that he'll be able to join us as well. I'm not sure if he's joined us already, but you might have that opportunity to be in a group with him as well in advance of meeting him again next month, which would be cool. And then in June, what we have stacked up right now is a panel discussion on business transformation. Julie Rue is going to be hosting in June. Next month, Angie is going to be hosting, and then we don't know about July. We'll get there soon, but we definitely want to know ideas that you may have for things that are of interest to you, so that we can make sure that our summer and fall events are going to be valuable for everyone. And then I also wanted to clarify, our typical cadence is the third Thursday of the month. So next month is, it's May 20th, that's the third Thursday. And in June, it'll be June 17th. We were out of cycle by a week because we were worried about tax season before taxes got changed, and we didn't want to compromise anyone's schedule to get their taxes done. So we shifted it from the 3rd to the 4th Thursday. So that's the reason why we really like to stay on that kind of normal cadence. So you guys don't have to think so much about what you're doing on the 3rd Thursday of every month. You just come and hang out with us. So that's that. We hope you'll be able to join us for those two as well. And then we want to keep at least a rolling 3 events on the calendar, so you'll have ideas for what you're going to do in the summer with us too. And if you have any ideas about timing of this event, if 5 o'clock doesn't work or you want to switch something up a little bit for the summer months, definitely share that with us. We want to make sure it's a time that works for everyone. So now back to today's event. So our guest speaker is Angela Agresto, and you know her from, obviously from previous events and for introducing the Sahotas last month as well. And she's a member of our leadership team. She's just an amazing coach and an amazing facilitator and trainer and author and a friend. And I'm really happy. I always say, I'm so happy to introduce this person. But my friends are really dear to me. And I must tell you that most of my intros have been with people I've known for quite a long time. Well, I have not known Angie all that long, but I can tell you that it is, really, she's enriched my life immensely. So I treasure my time with her. I truly do. And I hope that all of you take that time and opportunity to get to know her better, because she's amazing. Little thing, she gave me a little tiny magic wand, and I've mentioned this before, but it's not the magic wand, it's Andy. She's magic, so keep that in mind. So anyway, you can tell I'm a fan, so I'm not going to try to be like over crazy effusive, but I must say she's an amazing person, and I wish I'd met her many years before. But the thing about her is that you feel like you've met her many years before. It's just, she's just a really open, authentic person. And it makes it easy to talk with her and share with her and to learn from her as well. So I met her only about 2.5 years ago, I guess. My math is not so good, but it was in October 2018. We worked at a client together, and we were able to team up and work together on a daily basis for about 6 months or so. And we were able to help this client, really build their Agile competency with global teams, with product, with mindset, and really showed and helped leadership and executives understand the power of agility for increasing not only delivery, but also transparency. So that was a really rewarding experience. And for us to be able to be there at a pivotal time in this company's desire to be agile was really, like I said, very rewarding. So we had a lot of fun as well as saw a lot of results. So the fun was just awesome. So anyway, so now since that time, I guess, when Angie was still in the Twin Cities, we would still be able to get together and we chat about projects and scrum gatherings and conference presentation topics and training ops, certifications, all of that stuff, and meetups like this, and books, her books in particular, or other books that she thought would be of value. So we've continued to be able to connect like that, even though she lives in that Fargo-Moorhead area or at the lake in Minnesota, but it's a ways away. So with COVID, it's like, well, you can't get together anyway, but there will come a time. So I'm pretty excited about that. So as I think I mentioned, I'm a fan, definitely a fan. She's one of the most creative people I know. I said she's open, she's sincere, she communicates well, she listens really well, and she helps teams discover their own insights and their own solutions that they can then take and go forward in whatever client or company they're in. So I mentioned where she lives. She engages with clients now. She provides training. She is a vibrant learner in every sense of the word in terms of broadening her already deep and wide skill sets. So she's writing books, one of which we're sharing today, and that book will also be bestowed upon 5 lucky winners of a blackout bingo game that she's going to facilitate. And the long and short of it is, I hope you connect with her. I hope you get great value out of this particular event. And I want you to now join me in welcoming my friend and our guest, Angela Agresto.
Thank you, Cheryl. That was really nice. Over the top.
I try, yes.
I am going to start sharing my screen. If you guys could just confirm for me that you can actually see by giving me a thumbs up. Awesome.
I can see it.
Perfect. Thank you. So I'm honored, I'm flattered, and I'm grateful. And I do want to just take a moment to thank Improving, who is our host for this meetup, for agreeing to help orchestrate these meetings and putting them together to bring value to the community, and for offering to give 5 of these books away to the participants of our session tonight. So I'm really excited about that. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to break up into smaller groups, and we're going to have a bit of a conversation about the topic that we're going to have here today. And that is, and sorry, my slide is not switching here. Let me just make sure we're good. Yes. So we're going to switch into breakout rooms. Cheryl Anderson is our administrator. She's going to take care of that for us. And what we're going to do is we're going to take just a couple minutes to introduce ourselves to each other. And we're going to talk about, what do we already know about how humans learn best? How do we learn best? So share whatever insights you have about your preferred learning styles and what helps you learn when you go to a session. So whenever you're ready, Cheryl, we can go ahead and send people off. welcome back, everybody. How was that?
Good.
Good?
It's good, yeah.
Good.
What did you guys learn while you were just having those brief conversations?
And
We
not
all learn
everybody,
differently.
I think not everybody is a singular learning style.
Yes.
I think everybody in our group said they liked a couple different things. Or a few, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. What were some of those examples that you guys talked about?
We talked about hands-on, right? Hands-on was one of the things that some people really gravitate towards. I actually kind of dissed on the games, but then I pivoted back and contradicted myself, and I said, but I do like some of them. And like the hokey activities don't work for me, but they work for a lot of people, and I've used them in training, right? And then sometimes just reading or some good pictures and diagrams.
Mm-hmm. Who else wants to share?
Yeah, I think from our discussion, it's very similar, like Bill just said, like the hands-on experience and also the graphics, different charts. Like for me, I'm a very visual learner, so I like to see different colors. Those can be really helpful for me.
Our team said the same thing, and then we added on having an email recap afterwards that you can refer back to later is always helpful.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Any others?
I'll be the, yeah, I'm old school. I was saying I need to write it down, that visual representation of that. And once I write it down, I can memorize it better. But I have to have that part of it. So I'm perhaps more old school, as they say.
Well, I don't know about old school. I think you're not, Chris. You're not old school at all.
So we also discussed with Maya about having good chunks so people can actually digest the information in a smaller chunks so they're not overwhelmed with information. So, and providing a case studies after the training so we can people can relate to how the knowledge could be applied, or maybe during the training as well. Also discussing upfront purpose and kind of upfront why, so people have a good idea about what's in it for them, and maybe finding good stories as kind of to tap into unconscious brain, so just to telling good stories always awake interest to the topic.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you guys have all hit on there is what we call the 6 brain principles. And the brain principles are actually outlined in Sharon Bowman's book, Using Brain Science to Make Training Stick. And while we will lightly touch on all of those topics, we don't have time to dive into all of them, but I wanted to just touch on them and let you guys know that all of those brain principles that we talked about, which is the words, listening, so that's the storytelling, moving or being interactive and engaged, writing it down is not old school. It's actually a real thing. Shorter trumps longer, meaning that shorter activities are more engaging. They keep the brain involved. And then switching it up, like you have to constantly be switching up what you're doing and changing the way that you're interacting with your participants. The principles behind that, those theories, those 6 trumps or those 6 brain principles are taught in a 2 to 5 day length training class. That's just for the participant course, depending on whether or not it's on site or remote. And that's simply the reason why we don't have time to dive into all of them. So what we're going to do today is spend time on demonstrating how you can apply them and put them together. So that's where we're going to go. If you do by chance want to learn more about them, any of Sharon Bowman's books, including the one that's up on the screen here, are great reads. They all touch on the brain principles. And then you guys actually threw in one more bonus item that isn't even covered here, which relates to repetition.
Angela, if you're meaning to share your screen right now, we're not seeing it.
Okay, awesome, thank you. It must have automatically stopped when we went into the breakout rooms. There we go. That's the only thing that you've missed. I haven't gone anywhere. Okay. So this is, and thank you, by the way, for letting me know that. This is the image of the 6 brain principles, or the 6 brain trumps. And then this is Sharon Bowman's book, Using Brain Science to Make Training Stick. The information or content within this book is some of the very same information that's touched on in all of the training from the back of the room courses and books. So you can get this information there to dive into it a little bit more deeper. Now, Cheryl has already done an amazing job of introducing me. So I'm not going to talk about this slide, but I am going to just share a disclaimer with you and let you all know that the concepts and the strategies from training from the back of the room are the items that I've used to create the book. And I have Sharon Bowman's permission. She's 100% supportive. She's been involved with this book the whole way through. It uses the brain-based instructional strategies to ensure that learners walk away with long-term retention of whatever the topic is that you were trying to teach, and the ability for them to be able to take that knowledge and reuse it in their own lives. The reason that I personally am so passionate about sharing this training model is because I know that it genuinely works. And as a participant, I love to learn this way. And so if I like to learn this way, I have to imagine there's other people out there that do too. So this is all about the 4 C's training and design model. And to be honest with you, it's actually fun to teach. So for those of you who are out there who are doing training and facilitation every day, this is a fun way to do it. Now, what we've done here, and you guys may not even realize it, is we've already done one of the concepts and one of the activities. So congratulations. We've done our first brain-based activity already. It's called the connection activity. And to be honest, this is my favorite one. It's easy, and I highly recommend you use it. It's called the Fast Pass. And what is a Fast Pass? That's what you guys are all thinking, right? So Fast Pass is a quick 1 or 2 minute topic related activity, which engages learners from the moment that they enter your class. It's immediate. It's a way for them to to connect with your topic. It gets them curious about what other people are going to say about it, what they might learn about it, what they already know about it. And from a facilitation perspective, it's a time sponge. And what I mean when I say that is it helps absorb the time that participants would normally be using to consume your training time at the beginning of the class when they're settling in, because you're taking that time and turning it into an opportunity for them to be able to connect to each other and just start talking about the topic immediately. So what I want you guys to do right now, if you got the message I sent out to you earlier, I asked you to bring a piece of paper and a pen or a marker or crayons or whatever you would like to use. So if you haven't got the piece of paper yet or some Post-its, go ahead and grab that now. Okay, so what we're going to do is on one side of this piece of paper, all I want you to do is just take a moment and think, what is 1, maybe 2 sentences that it states what you want to learn in today's session? You don't have to share this with anybody. I'm not going to ask you to share it with the group. This is just for you. Just take 60 seconds and think about what's one thing I hope to walk away from this session today with. Finish writing, and you're waiting for the rest of us to go ahead and finish our task of writing down the question, grab your phones because we're going to use them next. Okay, so keep the paper nearby. We're going to use it again. You're not done with it. However, I want you to grab your phone and I want you to go to pollev.com. When you get to pollev.com, you should have a screen that pops up on your phone and it wants you to enter the rest of the information behind the backslash. What you're going to do is you're going to enter Angela A880 and it's going to take you to this question. And the question is, what is your priority for today's meetup? And you've got 4 different options. And so what we want to do is we just want to get an understanding of where everybody that we have participating today is at to make sure that we cover all of those topics for everybody. If for some reason that doesn't work, you can text. There are directions on the screen that give you directions to text the information as well. You text Angela 880 to 22333. And then as soon as you are able to join, you can just type in ABCD for your choice and it'll populate that here so that we can all see what everybody would like to do today. While you guys are doing that, I want to cover just a couple of housekeeping items. And first, if you're comfortable turning on your cameras, we've got quite a few people here who have them on. Go ahead and turn them on. I have mine on. I'm going to leave mine on. I love being able to see and interact with everybody. Only do it if you're comfortable, though. I'm not asking you to do something you don't want to do. As a facilitator, it is so helpful for me to be able to see you and to hear you and to gauge whether or not I maybe need to slow down or stop and explain something a little bit different if I can see where you are with me. If there's any technical issues due to the cameras being on, which some of you might have experienced in one of our past sessions, don't worry about it. We've got an administrator. Cheryl will take care of that. She'll shut them down for us and let them know why she did it. Wow, look at this. It's pretty cool. So we've got, it's almost tied with the results we have in here so far. So we've got 30 and 30. Learning how to create a more engaging learning environment. Learning new training techniques to add to my toolbox. And ensuring my participants are connecting with my training topic. Very tight. Nice. Awesome. Well, the good news is that we're going to cover all of these. But we will make sure that we focus on getting you guys some techniques to put in your toolbox, and we'll make sure that they're engaging so that the participants can connect with them. Okay. Now, that piece of paper I told you were going to need, grab it. You've got your sentence or your statement written on one side, your goal for today's session. And now what you're going to do is you're going to take your piece of paper and you're going to fold it in half 3 times. I'll do this with you so that you can see what I'm talking about. So just fold it in half once, fold it in half again, and then one more time. What happens when you open this back up is you will have a sheet of paper that has 8 quadrants or sections on it. Doesn't matter how you fold it, so long as you fold it 3 times, you'll get 8 quadrants. If you don't have a piece of paper, that's okay. You can use an electronic notebook like Microsoft Word or Microsoft Notebook or any of the other ones out there. I don't know Google's names, so I can't tell you what they are. Maybe if you want lines or text boxes, whatever you need to do to make sure you have 8. Same thing if you're using Post-its. Just grab 8 of them, lay them down, and you're going to make yourself a bingo, blackout bingo board. On the screen that you're seeing right now, there's a list of, I think 16, I didn't count, 16 topics, techniques, or concepts from today's session. We're going to learn all of these today. And so what I want you to do is just capture 8 of these and put them anywhere on the boxes that you would like to. Here's an example of what I did. I just drew some lines so it was a little bit easier for you to be able to see. As we go through today's session and we learn about these topics or these techniques, all you're going to do is mark off your boxes. So if you want to cross them off, you want to use colored markers and color them, whatever works for you. There's no rules. There's no right or wrong way. And for those of you who don't know, these ones that I highlighted up here in yellow, we've already done them. So if you put them on your board, you've got some bonuses that have already been completed. As we go through today's session, if you get a bingo, you legit need to call out bingo. You need to let us know you got it. And when you have bingo, Cheryl Neeser will connect with you in chat, and you can give her your forwarding information, and she will mail you a copy of the book. And the books are going to go to the first 5 bingo winners.
Right. And I would say, hit me up, because I'm not, I only see a few people's names when we're going through the presentation. So hit me up in chat directly to me, and then I'll get your information so I can send you the book.
Yep. All right. You guys, I love open discussion and interactive facilitations. Interrupt, ask questions anytime, the whole way through. I want you to be engaged and involved and to play with the topics and the concepts, and ask questions if you want to learn something. You are not going to hurt my feelings. I'm not that type of facilitator. Additionally, if you're not comfortable asking the question out loud or raising your hand, put it in the chat. Cheryl's monitoring the chat, and she will make sure we get the questions. Now, I don't want to move forward until I know you guys have your bingo boards made. So when you guys are ready, I would like for you to hold them up for me so that I can see that you're ready to go, because I don't want to leave anybody behind, because I am not going to give you this screen again until we get to the end of the session. Perfect. I'm seeing everybody. Okay, looks like we've got a couple people that are still working, so let's go ahead and just give everybody one more minute.
Angela, are the C2 concepts and C3 concepts, those are 2 separate sections?
You know what? Thank you for pointing that out. I didn't even notice that. That is a typo. So C2 is concepts and C3 is concrete practice. So there is a C1, a C2, a C3, and a C4. I just messed up and typed concepts twice. All right, Craig, I see Craig's. Carrie, I think I didn't see one from you. Were you ready? Okay. All right, you guys, I'm going to move forward. If somebody doesn't have their bingo board ready, you're going to have to let me know.
All right, so we needed 8 items, correct?
8. Yep.
All right, thank you.
You are welcome. Okay, so who knows what this diagram is? Srikar, what is this diagram?
I just heard about it from my mentor coach.
Yeah? Can you share with us?
I have no details. I just heard about it.
Okay, fair enough.
It's the Maxwell's hierarchy of needs, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Yep, it absolutely is. Was somebody else saying something?
Yes. So this theory says that without psychological safety, you cannot see any improvements from humans. So until you fulfill their basic needs, you cannot expect excellence from anybody.
Wow, that was amazing. Was that Siva?
That is correct.
Thank you. Thank you for that explanation. That was great. Okay, so, and Siva, I don't know how much you know about this, but to those of you in the room who maybe don't know a lot about this, this is not new. This concept or this research, this theory was researched and published in a paper called A Theory of Human Motivation back in 1943. However, I'm not looking for you guys to remember dates about how old this stuff is. The point here is the value of what psychological safety means to those people that we have in our facilitation workshops, trainings, meetings, and allowing or making sure that they have their needs met so that they can actually engage with us. And so what I want to know is, what do you guys think? the connections are that actually relate the learning material and how to teach or train others by using the psychological needs from Maslow. What are some things as facilitators or trainers that we can do to help people do that?
I guess don't have meetings time. So
I didn't. Can you say that again? Don't have meetings, what?
don't have meetings or workshops during lunchtime. You know what I mean? Like, because you're either sleepy or you're distracted.
Yeah, I understand. Yep.
Or provide the basic need, food.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
I start with the bottom one. I make sure that everybody's comfortable. I remember in college, professor told me the mind can absorb only what the posterior can absorb. And I've carried that for 30 years, that whenever I teach anything, I need to make sure everybody's comfortable. The temperature's good, comfortable seating as best as we can. If those basic needs aren't there and people are squirming, they're not focusing on the presentation.
Absolutely. Yeah. Does anybody else have anything to add?
And this also goes with like team leadership and things like that. It's, you know, making sure they feel respected, heard, safe to be able to express themselves. You know, make sure that they feel like they're included. And you know, that's kind of how you coach people to get high performing teams as well.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for all of that information. You guys, what we did there was something called 3 before me. So rather than me giving you guys all of the information, I chose to ask for at least 3 people to speak up and share what they already knew about the topic and let the class teach each other. That's called 3 before me. So if you've got that on your sheets, go ahead and mark that one off. So as humans, we are social people. We live with each other, we create relationships with each other, we learn from each other, and learning is no exception. Learning is social. And by taking the time to use connections, which is the C1 that we talked about, we are both creating psychological safety for them so that they can connect to the material, but we're also priming them so that they can learn about the content that we want to teach them. And what brain scientists say about priming is that it actually gets learners' brains ready to learn by getting them connected to the topic and to each other in active ways. So how is this different from traditional training methods that we were taught in school? I know in my group, I heard people talking about traditional methods and sitting in a chair, listening to the teacher speak, taking notes, and you just learn. So how is this different?
So it looks like Jamie has his hand up.
Yeah, I had a question about 3 before me. So one of the things that I used to do, I think in class when pre-COVID and we would be face-to-face, I kind of would, you know, look around the room and then I would kind of smile at one particular person if I was getting nobody to like respond, right? If the room was silent. And if I kind of smiled and looked at one person, then inevitably I could get them to talk, right? Inevitably they would kind of connect with me and say, oh, here's a friendly face. I'm going to feel more comfortable and I can talk. Now with this virtual Zoom, right? Even if everybody has their cameras on, you can't you can't stare and then smile. So is there any kind of techniques to get people without having to call on them, I guess?
Well, I haven't called on anybody so far tonight.
Right. Although I think we're mostly coaches and we might be more used to that. So I don't know if that's fair. Usually it's when I have a room full of developers. I'll say that much.
Yep.
They're not as willing to, you know, they're like interacting with computers, not as much with humans sometimes.
I understand. I coach them. So the technique I find that works the most when you're working with somebody who isn't comfortable speaking up in a group is by allowing them the safe space to be able to communicate in a way that is comfortable. So if that means using the chat, so I could very easily ask you guys the same question and say that you don't have to speak and interact with me, that you can put it in the chat. And then if you want to make sure that everybody is contributing and that people aren't being inhibited by what they're seeing other people chatting, you can have them type the information into the chat window, but then don't let them enter it. So have them hold it. And then when you say go, then everybody hits the enter button and all of the answers go in at the same time.
That's cool. I hadn't heard of or thought of that before. So that's really cool.
All right. So the question that we were at was, how is this different from traditional training methods that we were taught when we were in school or elsewhere?
It's interactive.
Yep.
Yeah, when we discuss with peers, we will feel that they are also in the same level. So some sort of safety net is built when we interact with the fellow colleagues.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, we're starting with the participants instead of with the instructor. So we're getting them to share something before we are sharing.
Great. Yes, great idea or great statement there. Every single one of the 6 brain-based principles is focused on how the learner learns. It is not focused on how the trainer trains. So when you first start to learn the concepts and putting the maps together to actually do the trainings and facilitations in this method, it can be a bit overwhelming because you're having to learn how to do something all over again. But once you start to do it, you realize that it actually makes your life even easier. Okay, so this was a slide we already saw. This is a mistake. I did this on purpose. I put on there for you guys the name of the activity and the actual C1, which is the C1 connection. And so this was the fast pass. When I said earlier, congratulations, we just did one. That's what this was. And so what we're going to just chat about here for a second is what connections actually do. So connections engage learners. We stated this a little bit earlier, from the moment that they walk into your classroom, your virtual environment, whether it's face-to-face, doesn't matter. But it encourages them to become involved because you've made it personal and you've taken your groups and you've brought them down into smaller, safer groups of communication. It involves them in the topic. It relates what they already know to your topic. Now, you are also connecting them to each other. So those people who are introverted and don't like to be in rooms of large groups of people, this is an amazing technique to use with them because you're allowing them to start to get comfortable with just 2 or 3 people. And then as that table group then starts to open up and communicate with the rest of the people, they start to slowly engage with the other people that are in the room. And so that safety is leveled up as they continue to move on. So this is the hierarchy of needs again. And all I did was put up another slide here because I wanted to show you guys the activities and the concepts that we used as we walked through this one, because they're so subtle. I don't think that people even realize that they're happening sometimes. So on this one, we walked through concepts. And what are concepts? So concepts are activities which engage learners during direct instruction, including strategies which allow learners to teach and learn from each other. So what I'd like you to do is just take a few minutes. We've been going now for about half an hour and share one connection or concept technique that you might be able to take from what we've done today and introduce it into your next workshop, training, or meeting. So Cheryl, if you could go ahead and send us into breakout rooms again, I think 4 minutes would be good.
Cheryl?
Yeah, Cheryl was on mute. Yeah, that was me. So that's cool. Megan, do you want to just come to kind of just direct message me in the chat with your mailing address info, and then maybe an
Sure,
email
yeah.
as well.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
All right. Congratulations, Megan. That's what I said was I was on mute. Sorry. I have to get used to every time we go in and out of break rooms to turn it back on again.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Before we transition into how our brains learn, I would love to hear from you guys about some of the traditional learning methods that you're personally familiar with. So in 60 seconds, I'd like to see how many people we can get to shout out one traditional, so one at a time, one traditional learning method.
Lecturing.
Reading.
Note taken.
Video.
Classroom.
Kinetic.
On the job.
Walk the flow.
What was that?
Walk the flow.
Okay.
Storytelling.
Experimenting.
Shadowing.
I don't even know how many that is. I lost count. We were at 10, I think. Great job. So traditional instruction is what we've been talking about here today, and we're in comparison to brain-based learning. And that's teachers sitting in desks in a row, teacher talking, trainer lecturing, students listening, reading, taking tests, that type of thing. So what I'd like to do, and hang on a second here, is take 5 minutes to share our experiences with each other. What experiences have you had with traditional versus brain-based learning? And then how was that? So what I'm getting at here, so I apologize because I didn't explain this very well. I just didn't type my notes very well, is what has been your experience with traditional learning, and like, what don't you like about it? What is it that doesn't work for you? I'll share an example before we go have these conversations. And that is, I cannot stand sitting in a lecture room and just listening to someone talk, 5 or 10 minutes in, I'm starting to check out because I'm getting bored. So that's one for me. So if Cheryl, if you could put us back into our room so we can go ahead and just have like a quick 4-minute conversation about this. Welcome back, everybody. So the conversation was about traditional instruction versus brain-based instruction, or what we don't like about traditional instruction. I imagine almost all of our conversations were probably very, very similar. So I'm going to go ahead and move us into something a little bit more fun, which is some experiments. So traditional instruction was never meant to be a human brain activity. It was actually composed the way that it was for economical purposes. Our government simply wanted to educate the most amount of people for the least amount of money. That is the only reason why traditional learning systems are still the way they are today, is because of cost effectiveness. Now, some teachers, yeah.
Sorry, could you, I might have missed this if we talked about it earlier, but can you kind of define a traditional, the traditional teaching methods that you're referring to?
Yeah, yep. So when, let's say, for example, classroom setting, student in a desk, teacher in the front, and they're literally lecturing and going through content, and the person in the room or the student in the desk is expected to just sit there and not interact with the teacher, the other people in the room, or any activities at all. The most interaction you might have is taking notes and occasionally getting to have him or her answer your question with 30 other kids, 40 other kids in a class. Is that
Just a reminder to share again, Angela.
Sounds good. Got it. You didn't miss anything. There's nothing there. What was that? Was that helpful?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, perfect.
The only thing that may have been different than maybe what you were thinking in our group is we did find that we did have teachers that had that traditional style of teaching, but that were actually engaging, even though it was lecture, they did make engaging, and we could even remember primary school teachers' names because they were so engaging.
Yeah, that's a great point. Jamie, I had a couple of teachers that I still remember their names to this day too, but out of all the years I've been in school, I can only remember 2. So the point here isn't whether or not traditional instruction does or doesn't work. It's simply about the difference between traditional instruction versus brain-based instruction. And I don't want anybody to get hung up on the words, the descriptions, differences, titles. You guys take what you want from this session, use it, recycle it, translate it into your own words, your own educational lecture style. That's my goal, is just to share information with people and let you take from it what you can. So we're going to run a couple of experiments, and we're going to use our brain to learn about the brain in these experiments. And they're going to be really easy and really quick. So on the next slide, all I want you to do is read it, and then we'll talk about it. All right. So what do you notice about this?
I could read it.
Yeah.
Everything's
on
spelled
Facebook
wrong.
a bunch of times. It's
Yeah.
just
Are you?
amazing that it works.
Yeah, I have to.
Did anybody struggle reading it?
A bit, some of the words, I still don't know what they are.
Okay. How many people, just by a show of hands, if you don't have your cameras on, you can use the oh, I don't remember what they're called, but you can raise your hand in there. Thank you. How many of you were surprised when you actually recognized this and hadn't seen it before, how easy it was to actually read this? Because every single word in this is spelled wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are a couple of typos here. That
Oh.
word letters is not having L in it, instead of having I. That kind of confusing, but other than that, it's good.
Yeah. So that's the point, Vlad. The point is that this whole thing is wrong, but that our brain is actually able to read it. And the reason why our brain is able to read it is because our brain looks for the easiest way to get to the solution. It looks for patterns. So we're going to do one more experiment. Okay.
Oh, we have another bingo from Tiffany.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, awesomeness. So I will send a quick note to Tiffany.
Cool. All right, you guys, we're going to do a couple of different things with this slide. You should be seeing a slide. I'm going to make sure you guys all have it. A slide of 1 to 10, just a bunch of numbers, nothing else, right? Okay. So what I need you to do is 3 things, and I'm going to give you the instructions one at a time. First, silently add all the numbers to get a sum total. Okay, everybody there? Raise your hands if you're good. Okay. Now, don't tell the answers yet. The second question is, think about, just for a moment, think about how did you actually add those numbers together? Okay. So now share with the group, what number did you get?
55.
55.
Yeah.
55.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Now share with the group, how did you get to the number?
I made
counted
5
tens.
groups of 11.
Thank you,
No.
Tiffany. Gary?
I actually went with tens. So 10 plus
Yeah.
0, 9 plus 1, 8 plus 2.
Yeah.
Me
Yeah,
too.
10s. 10 plus 9 plus 1 is 10. So 10,
Exactly.
20, 30, 40, 55.
There you
Exactly.
go. Who had another way?
I just summed them left to right.
Okay. Craig, you're raising your hand?
Yeah, how I did it, I waited for you all to give me the answer.
There you go.
I was counting 11s.
Groupthink.
That's awesome. So you guys, this number line is a metaphor. It's a metaphor for learning and for teaching. And the point is, there is no one way. There's no one way to learn. There's no one way to teach. But there are many ways to teach and many ways to learn. And some work better for some of us than they do for others. And some of us just need different ways to help learn more quickly and effectively than others. That's it. So our brains are pattern seeking. The human brain is constantly seeking pattern. It's naturally and normally looking for ways to connect with information in a pattern or chunks that are easier to remember. And it does this to be efficient. It wants to save time and it wants to save energy. Furthermore, there's actually a little zing of endorphins, pleasure chemicals in the brain whenever it's able to figure out the pattern on its own and somebody doesn't tell it how to do it. It is as if the brain had its own personal reward system for figuring things out instead of being told how to figure things out. So tell me, what do you think that actually means? And you're not going to put the answers out loud this time. This time, you're going to go ahead and put them in the chat. So we're going to do a group chat discussion. So we got brain always wants to take shortcuts to save energy. We like to learn. Well, these are going so fast I can't even read them. I got to make it bigger. I don't see quite as well as I used to when I was in my 20s. We like to learn and figure things out. Adaptability. Traditional teaching methods which don't honor the learner's experience, eliminate the reward of learning, and thus subvert the natural learning process. Yeah, excellent. The brain is lazy and ultra efficient at getting a result. Yes, it is. Brain likes shortcuts. Absolutely. Yes, it does. All of these are right. There is no wrong answer here. So you guys, the brain gets bored, legit. Like it needs to have constant interaction. It needs to have different activities. And we just have to be conscious and constantly changing how we deliver the information. So what happens at the 10-minute mark? And essentially, we've already talked about this because I literally just said it. What happens at the 10-minute mark when your participants get there and then they start to check out of your presentation? Why do they do that?
Brain's still looking for a new pattern.
Can you guys say that again one at a time?
I said they're bored or
Yep.
unengaged.
Yeah, your brain's still looking for, or your brain is constantly looking for that new pattern of how to process the information. And if you're presenting it in the same way, after 10 minutes, it's gone.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. It
A
is.
more engaging notification popped up.
What?
A more engaging notification pops up.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. Your brain quickly begins to ignore anything that becomes routine, and it's just waiting for you to give it something new. So Eric Jensen in Brain-Based Learning also says this a little bit more politically correct. So I'll let you guys go ahead and read this. I'm not going to read it to you, but I like saying board. It's easy to remember. And here it is one more time, another way. And one more, just to make it a little bit more fun. So the point here is that by following the 4 C's brain-based design and training tool, we are constantly re-engaging our participants' brains every 10 minutes. 10 minutes is the ideal state. Now, can you teach a topic in 10 minutes or less every single time? No, it's ideal state. And to be honest with you guys, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. It's not actually even 10 minutes anymore. 10 minutes is still what's being taught, but it's actually not even realistic. The fact that people are so enthralled and engaged with social media and the internet is consistently dropping our attention span every single year. The last study that I saw indicated that we had reduced from 10 minutes 10 years ago to 7 minutes as an adult. And if you're a child, it's now down to 4. So what that means is that in an ideal world, 10 minutes is the longest chunk of content, training content, before you actually change what you're doing, the way you're engaging. 15 to 20 minutes, probably more of the norm, and I wouldn't recommend going over 20. So C1 connections, what they do is ensure that learners make connections with what they already know, what they think they know about the topic, your topic, with what they will learn or what they want to learn in your session, in your class, your workshop, and with each other and with you. C2 concepts are the techniques that are used allowing learners to take in the new information in multisensory ways: hearing, seeing, discussing, writing, reflecting, imagining, and participating in short, quick activities. C3 is concrete practice. So that is where learners are actively practicing using the new information, participating in an active review of what they just learned, or teach the new information to others. A really good example of concrete practice was those experiments that we did. Like, we talked about the brain and patterning, but then we actually did those experiments and saw what our brains did. C4, conclusions. This is the last part of the map. This is where learners actually summarize what they've learned. They are able to have time to evaluate it, celebrate it, and create action plans for how they plan to use the material after the class is over.
We have 2 more bingos.
Woo! Where are we
Karen
at? How many do we have?
Karen and Manaz. I think that's 4.
So we have 1 more?
I think so.
Okay. So we've got C4 conclusions, think and write, and Chatterstorm on this slide here. Do you guys all have those checked off?
And Chad typed in bingo, so now we're at 5.
Nice. Congratulations, you guys. That's so fun. That's so awesome. Okay. So we have actually covered all 16 of these in the last 1 hour and 10 minutes. If there are any of them that you didn't feel like you understood where they were, I'm going to give you guys a chance to ask those questions. But right now, I want to just go show you the actual 4 C's flow, and then how that connects to brain building blueprints, so that you can see the tool itself. So what I've done is taken the 4 C's map, the brain-based instructional design model, and created a job aid out of it. So, and I'll share with you guys how this happened. I took Sharon Bowman's classes. I've taken all of them, every single one of them. And the very first one that I went to, I loved the material. And, as an Agile coach, as a facilitator, presenter, somebody who schedules and organizes and runs meetings, I was always wondering why people interacted with material differently or didn't. And why do Post-it notes have this magical superpower? I didn't understand. And so taking this class really helped me connect with the brain principles and the understanding of how people actually learn, and then how to change what I was doing to engage with them differently. And so the problem, however, with the material is that the books are brilliant. The books and the training classes are written so that it gives you the knowledge and the understanding of what is so magnificent with the science behind it. But when you go back to the material as a facilitator or instructor, and you try to find all of the really cool techniques that are inside and buried in those books so that you could actually build your training maps, it was a ton of work. And so what I did was I worked with Sharon to actually take out her techniques from that literature and then put it into a flipbook model that could easily be given to anybody to build training maps. And so what I'm going to do is I'll actually show you guys a little video that was created to demo the book. And I'm not sure if you guys can actually see this. Are you still seeing my PowerPoint, or can you actually see the new browser window that opened?
See the browser
window.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Is there just music, or is there actually conversation?
I believe it's just music.
Yeah.
It may be that the sound is not shared.
I couldn't hear exactly what you said, but it's just background music. There's nothing there for you to listen to.
Okay.
So what you guys saw in the first minute of this is that there's a bunch of techniques in the book, and they are all laid out into the C1, 2, 3, 4 map design, and you can literally just flip through the techniques and just build your maps in minutes. One thing that you can't see on here that is part of some of the tip information inside of the book is that not only, I'm going to go ahead and stop this. Not only do you have the technique information, but on one side of the page, I've given you the name of the technique. I've given you all the instructions to actually use the technique. On the second, or there's an echo. Testing, can you hear me? Okay, sounds better. On the right side of the page, or the second page, because they open up like this, you've actually got a timestamp that tells you exactly how long that activity or technique will take. I give you a range. So if it's something that takes like 3 minutes to do one time, but takes 15 minutes to do multiple times, and then explain to you what the benefits would be of doing it once, twice, 3 times. If there's any setup or materials that are required for the techniques, it's there. So I've tried to give you everything I can, or anybody who uses the book, all of the necessary materials to be able to put together their trainings. And you guys have got techniques in today's session that are not in the book. So there are techniques I'm using in some of the trainings to share with people that are not there so that you're getting something extra. So I'm going to show you next. This is the actual 4C map that I made for today. I made 2 of them so that you can actually see how I did this. So the topic for today was brain-based learning. And my first objective was to make sure that everybody that was here was able to take something from the connection or the concept piece that we did at the first half and be able to take that and apply it to your future training. And I've outlined all of the techniques and exactly what the topic question was for each one of the C4 parts. And then I did a second section, a second map. Same overall topic or objective, but the narrower objective was making sure that every participant here today are able to walk away with at least one technique from today's session that you can just use, whether you buy the book or not. Like I think it's an amazing facilitation tool, obviously, but I still want you to be able to get something out of the time that you spent here with us today. All right, so at the beginning of today's session, on the back of that bingo board, you wrote a question. So that was note to self. And in that question, you were supposed to write down what your learning objective was for today's session. And what I'd like for you to do is just quickly take a minute or quickly take a second to read that and just confirm whether or not you were able to get what your initial learning objective was for today. Okay, you guys. One last thing in the chat, what I would like for you to do is open it up, type into the chat one thing that you learned from today's session, one technique, one concept, one skill, one fact, one anything that you can take away from today's session and apply moving forward. Don't hit the enter button, just type it in the chat. Let's give everybody a minute to type it in, and then we'll all hit enter at once. Where are you guys at? We need another 30 seconds. You're good. Okay. Okay, sounds good. Go ahead and hit enter. Allison, I see your question. How often should we engage participants? Less than 10 minutes.
It wasn't a question. That's what I learned.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry. Thank you. Yes, less than 10 minutes. Absolutely. Remember that the students can often teach each other and teach the teacher. Oh, heck yeah. Give them space to do that every 7 minutes. Yeah. Isn't that powerful? That 7 minutes. The 4, I think, is even amazing too with the kids. Makes you understand a little bit more clearly why they struggle. Having fun virtual activities. 3 before me. Note to self. Keeping delivery concepts, 10 to 15 minutes. These are all great. And you know what, you guys, I just want to let you know, this activity here, this very last one that we did, this isn't just for you, this is also for me. So as a facilitator, I now am able to know that the learning objective that I created for today's session, with my goal of making sure that everybody walked away learning one thing was achieved. And so I can feel good about that. So it solidifies the connection of the material and the content for you guys to the material from the beginning of the session all the way through, but it also is feedback for me. So that's all I got. I wanted to make sure that there was a little bit of time left for discussion or questions. So if you guys have any questions, I am open and available, or we can just chat.
You had mentioned covered learner's log, but maybe I missed that. I didn't.
So learner's log was literally just the other side of the piece of paper that you were making notes on. So, and you know what? I may not have done a great job of calling that out. I put it up on one of the slides. That's what it was. But if I didn't take the time to explain it, I apologize. So what that is you making sure that you've created space for your participants to take down notes, whether or not it's a sentence, a statement, but just ensuring that they have it. And the reason why learner logs are so important is because when you actually write down something that you've learned, it's a repetitive process. And so that it increases the availability for them to retain the information because they've heard it, they've seen it, and now they've written it. And so it helps you be able to retain it. That's the value.
Yeah, I had the same question that Chad posted, Chatterfall.
Chatterfall we just did. So Chatterfall is when you have everybody put the information in, but you make them wait until everybody's done to enter the information, and then you send it all over like a waterfall.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I didn't hear a formal like explanation of experiential processing, but I'm assuming that's the discussions that we had about how we, for example, how we learned or how we interpreted data or whatever.
That was my connection to us actually doing the experiments, like the actual reading and then talking about why it worked or what it did or what we learned about doing the activity, and then the one with the number strips.
Got it.
We actually did the experiments.
There's a question in the chat about what is note for me.
Note for me is the note that you wrote for yourself at the beginning of the session. And the value of note for me is that it invests you to the material, to the topic. You now have committed to wanting to learn something during the session. So you stay connected to it the whole way through. And then as a facilitator, you want to bring them back to it at the end because you want them to be able to see whether or not they actually learned what they came to learn, what to achieve their learning objective.
I might be a little confused. What's the difference between the note to self and the learner's log?
So the learner's log is literally for you to just write notes like through the whole thing. So let's say 3 before me, we did 3 before me, and there was a bunch of people that said, oh, I really, really liked that. If you took the time to write down 3 before me and anything with it, or just 3 before me period, so you don't forget it, that's a learner's log. Anything that you wrote down, the concept, the concept with learner's log is just the fact that you're making space and giving them time to actually write it down.
Cool.
What was beat the clock?
Beat the clock is when I said, let's see how many people can answer this question in 60 seconds or less. And everybody started answering the question and I lost track of how many. That's beat the clock. So you're making them, creating a space for participants to get excited and to try to beat the clock with their answers. So you're going to connect with anybody that's competitive on that one.
So I have a question, but it's not necessarily related to this. I wanted to learn from you in terms of what motivated you to write the book? And if you could, I may have missed it and I apologize, but if you could tell us what motivated, because it seems interesting as an initiative, and the video seemed like a lot of creativity went to it. So I was just curious of the motivation.
Yeah, the motivation was selfish, really. As a coach and a facilitator, I didn't want to have to spend hours going through the books to find all of these amazing techniques that were in. I mean, I literally have every book Sharon has ever written, and others, because I'm always looking for different types of facilitation techniques. I can never get enough of them. And so what I wanted to do was to take all of that information and to put it into one really small, lightweight, portable, compact thing that I could run from conference room to conference room with, from meeting to meeting with, and be able to really quickly have my back pocket full of something, whether it was a 1-minute exercise, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So yeah, that's it. It really did start out as, I want to do this because this is something that I can use. And then I just discovered that when I was doing it, if it's valuable to me, it's going to be valuable to other people like me. So.
Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. Okay.
So, may I ask a question, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, at some point, it seems like you were saying that you took a book and the book was really hard to process, but you created a different way of learning the concepts there. So what is the process of getting a book, like any book, and then creating a different thing from that, like a workshop, something that you can learn quickly?
I'm not sure if I understood your question completely, but I'll answer the best I can, and then you let me know if I hit the mark, okay? So the material in the training from the back of the rooms books and brain science, using brain science to make, learning stick or training stick, they're amazing books. They have a ton of literature, research, and science in them that explain why the techniques work. The reason that I made this book was because I didn't want to have to look through and drudge through the research. I wanted the gold. I wanted it to be easy. I wanted to pick out the secret sauce and put it in a one really quick, fast, easy place for me to be able to get to.
Yeah, my question was, how do you decide what needs to be in your book? And how, if you would like to do the other book like this, so what will be your process?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because I actually collaborated with Sharon on this. We picked facilitation, techniques that work, that can be reused over and over again, virtually and in a physical environment. And there will be more of them. It's actually created a ton of ideas in my head as to different ways that this can be done to help people, to make things easy, quick, simple.
I think Vladimir wants to write a book.
No, I want actually to be able to, after I read a book, I want to retain more, because as you said, Angela, when you read a book, and especially now we have Audible, you can actually listen and do something else.
Yeah.
You listen to this, like zip through that, you like it, but after a month, you barely can remember what was there.
Yeah.
A month?
I don't remember what I had for dinner yesterday.
Right. So, yeah. So if I would create, let's say I would like to create the goal from a book, as you did. So what do you do?
Well, okay. So you have to have permission. You have to know the author to be able to, either that or you have to rewrite it all. And that's not someplace I wanted to go. I was lucky enough to actually know Sharon and her material. I explained it to her the same way that I shared with you guys. You know, I think that this material is amazing, and I think it's just difficult. I walk away from this and I want to create these maps, but it's so much effort to be able to do it. And I want to be able to take what you've created and make it into something that is really easy. And she was all in, and she was like, do it. So I think that's the key. You have to have permission from the person who created the gold to be able to do that.
Outside of trying to create a book, I guess it's more of kind of a learner's log, if you think about it, right? For being able to use the activities or facilitate activities. Yeah. Yeah, it absolutely. That's a really great way to think about it. Or like a mind map, like everything that I learned from the classes and the trainings, and putting them down on pieces of paper. But now I don't have to go back and dig through my notes. Right.
It's like notes.
Yeah, and they're all laid out for me into the actual map that I need to have. So I don't have to find them and put them in order and try to figure out how do they work together. I just pick the ones, I just flip through until I find the one that I want, and then boom, flip through and grab the next one.
I guess I need to read your book to understand.
So yeah, it will be ready next month. So the website is ready. It's brainbuildingblueprints.com. So same as the book title. And as soon as it's ready for sale, the information will be on there to buy it. It'll be on Amazon.
I apologize, maybe I missed that. What is experiential processing?
Experiments, like actually live working with experiments. So that in this session, that was when we actually read those misspelled words and our brain was able to process them. That was actually experimenting with how our brain worked. And the number strips, how did we add them together? How did we all do that different? What was the experience?
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. It was, oh, she's gone.
Yeah. That's great. Gary's got his hand up, so I will wait.
Hey,
Or is that
Gary.
a bye? One of those.
Nope, I was just clapping.
Oh,
I
all right.
love
clapping.
listening.
Thanks,
Angie and I
Gary.
worked together for a while.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. Gary and I used to work together.
Oh, all right.
So
Cool.
Gary and Cheryl, you guys can tell each other stories.
That's great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, definitely connect with Angie. You know, she's got a website. She's on LinkedIn. She's obviously one of the people that works on this meetup. So there's lots of ways to connect with her. And then you won't ever miss out on when she's got her books available.
Absolutely. Yep. I will definitely see you guys back here. I've been to all of them so far.